Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on how to find creative winners and use AI to maximize their value. So I'll start by introducing our speakers. My name is Adi Chrysler. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at AppsFlyer, managing the creative optimization product. We have Max Barrer. He's the head of creative optimization, also here at AppsFlyer.
Hello.
Hello, Max. And lastly, we have from Ace Game, the SVP Marketing, Saikala Sultanova. Hi, Saikala.
Hey, everyone.
We're going to start with a short presentation about how to find creative winners and use AI. Then Max will speak about creative optimization use cases. And then we'll move on to a Fireside chat with Max and Saikala about creative optimization, early adopters, insights, and learnings. And after that, we'll have time for a Q&A. So another reminder to write any questions you may have in the Q&A section. Great. So in the last few years, user acquisition strategies have changed. We have new algorithms, new automations, AI, and despite all of that, creatives still remain a real crucial component in the success of a campaign. So I'll start by asking, what do you think is the percentage of contribution an ad creative content has on the ad success? You have the poll open and you can vote. 67%, 14%, 21%, or 49%. The question is how much, what's the contribution of a creative content has to an ad success? So you can vote. Let's see the results. 1 second. I can't see the results. All right, so 49%, in fact, is the number that Nielsen research showed that contributes to the success of a creative. So it's not just about pinpointing the right audience or bid strategies. It's about having the right message, the right visual to capture the user attention and encourage them to take an action. So most of you probably know that all the rules around privacy are changing all the time, and we need to adapt ourselves according to that. We have fewer data signals down the funnel, which means that data from creatives and upper funnel metrics are becoming more important, which means that we have to pay more attention to the design, to the copy, to the messaging of every creative, which gives us a chance to stand out. But standing out is not an easy task, as you know, and we are always in search of this creative winner. And a creative winner is not just some minor improvement over other creatives. It's something that could be 10 or even 100 times better than other creatives that we have. And of course, it has to be scalable and give us exceptional ROI. However, most of the budget typically goes only to a handful of creative. Probably around 80–90% of the budget just goes to this handful of creatives. And we can see here how the spend versus the number of variations we have is so high. So how can we discover and make the most of these creative winners? It usually will take us a lot of testing and a lot of iterations before we find that winning one. So starting with scale. So it's usually straightforward to see that a winning creative will eat most of the impressions, of the budget, of the share of cost of a certain campaign or an ad group. Then looking at performance, so it's not just about being seen, it's making sure it counts. So we want to see the retention, LTV, the return on ad spend, also rising and higher than others. And lastly, creative winners, they may show promise on a specific media source, but we have to go and test them in a larger scale and make sure that they outperform the winning creatives that we currently have. So a winning creative combines volume and performance. And after we identify one, we want to make sure that we squeeze the lemon from this creative winner. So how do we do that? We're starting by asking ourselves, is this winner used across the board? Should we expand into other media sources, new networks, platform, countries, and making sure it maintains this high performance that we had so far in a larger scale. The next thing is about the context. So sometimes we have to make iterations to the context so it will work better when looking at the specific geo, or we want to segment a new kind of audience, then we need to make this context change in our messaging. And tweaking it even further. So usually in the ideation process, we want to test as soon as possible. So because we want to get validation. But it's rare that the first creative that we built, it's the final iteration. So we always need to keep polishing it and making sure that it fits with our brand. And making these further changes, such as localization or formats. So when we want to look even deeper into our creatives, we don't have to invent the wheel. We can start by looking at past winners and trying to understand what made people like them. Okay, is that something that we said? Is it the style? Is it how it looked? Was there anything that we can detect that led to success? We can look at the numbers and try to understand why it did so well. Was it the hook rate that grabbed the attention? Is it the hold rate that keeps them engaged? Or maybe it's the video completion time? And just a small tip to make life easier is using a clear naming system. So you can tag and then easily compare variations later on. Once you have so many creatives running, it's very hard to keep track on the different formats or themes or styles. So naming them will make our life easier. And once we do all of that, we can start creating new versions with different colors, with different backgrounds, and try to identify these specific elements that makes the most of its success. So now the interesting part, how does AI fit into it? Because AI changes everything. There's so many AI tools out there, and everyone is now trying to figure out which one is the best for them. We all know Midjourney, we know ChatGPT, but when it comes to creative optimization, there are tools that can really help us optimize and take it to the next level. And I want to focus on video creatives in particular, since that's a massively growing ad format. And as you can see, it's going to keep on growing in the next few years. So when we look at video creatives, how AI plays into it is with two things, and I'm not a tech person, so I promise it's going to be a simple explanation. We have the computer vision, and that's the part that sees the video, sees the pictures, and break it down into smaller pieces. We look for patterns and colors and shapes. So for example, it can identify a cat just by recognizing the shape and features of it. And then we have the NLP, which is the natural language processing, which listens to the human language. So it can distinct if I am asking a question or I'm saying a command. And these two new things open the door to explore what really moves the needle in our creatives. So the first layer is grouping frames with similar context. So it could look for opening scenes as a group, UGC, last scene, and then understand how each scene impacts the overall performance of creatives. And going deeper, it breaks every scene into elements. So in this creative that we see here of a car racing ad, it can detect the car. You see the person running there, the road signs, and every element that we see in this creative. And once you combine the creative data with the data from your channels, it can help you build creative winners and optimize them in a completely new level. Because AI can identify and label creative elements so we can understand what makes them effective. And it could also generate endless variations, probably that a human mind would never think of. So taking these two things together means that we don't have to keep on randomly testing. We can actually look at past data, understand what works, and then build new iterations based on that. So now I will pass it on to Max that will dive deeper into creative optimization use cases and best practices. And I'm reminding you that if you have any questions, then just put them in the Q&A, and we're gonna make sure to address all of these later on. Okay, Max, let me just give you mode control. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Adi. So as Adi covered the basic concepts of how we and most of our clients are seeing creative optimization happening, what are the stages, and what are the basic best practices of that, specifically using AI, what I will try to show you now is how all of that can be achieved with AppsFlyer's creative optimization platform. The first use case would be, okay, the first use case would be pretty simple, but it actually, and I really believe that, caters the day-to-day challenges of current creative optimization processes, and it's about data. It's about how we actually manage to aggregate the data from different sources on creative level, bringing data from different platforms, different video channels, trying to align it with MMP data, attribution, LTV, down funnel. So the first thing our product does is actually brings all of the assets running on all of the different networks, and regardless of any naming convention, sizes, compressions, anything, just uses AI to actually aggregate all of your creative library, whether that's images, videos, playables, HTMLs, and creates a unique creative entities across the different channels, what eventually with simple onboarding, you can have automatically access to all of your assets, as you can see in this slide, aggregated across different channels with the whole funnel metrics from upper funnel clicks, impressions, installs, spend, to down funnel LTV, in-app events, retention, cohort, and even ROAS, day 3, 7, 30, etc. That would be the first use case, just really understand how each of your creatives in a very accurate way works. The second use case, from one side, it is pretty obvious, but from the second view, it's actually the most recommended visualization of creative performance we've seen across hundreds of clients, and that's this specific share of voice, which, by the way, can be achieved in any visualization tool and also on our platform. This visualization really highlights in a percentage view the allocation of spend to each creative across time. And the practice here is basically to analyze your creatives across a long time frame, understanding their life cycle, understanding which creatives are evergreen, they are top spenders, they're never stops, they're just running and really working. And on the other hand, for example, understanding that some creatives have some seasonality, they are going up, they are going down for some different reasons. The networks choose sometimes to push them and sometimes to remove them. And of course, the most important thing to analyze is actually identify at the right time that some big spender is actually fatiguing, and it is a time to replace it and identify what is your winner, and put all of your efforts to actually taking this winner and scaling it back to not lose your budget. Moving to the next practice. Okay, moving to the next practice and actually kind of showcasing a bit the capabilities of our AI engine is actually analyzing scenes. So again, all of your videos, all of your library are probably eventually consistent of different scenes. It can be some opening scene with a hook, then maybe some live elements, maybe some animation. Then if you're a gaming company, you would probably have some gameplay elements. And eventually, by the way, today, one of the more trending things is actually some element of UGC, some influencer talking about using your product, using your game, whatever, and eventually some kind of end card. So our engine actually analyzes your library, breaks it down to all of your scenes, tagging automatically each scene and classifies that into all of these categories. And eventually, one of the simple use cases that you can use that and get an insight is actually, let's say, focus on opening scene, see which scene across all of your videos is highly performing according to your metric of choice. It can be what is my top spending scene, but from other side, it can be what is the scene that drives the better users, that bring more retention, or maybe some more in-app events. And eventually, when you identify this scene, this is actually the time to try and utilize this winning opening scene across your next iterations of video production. The next level and the next use case is actually going even deeper and identifying elements within these scenes, and again, across different videos. So in this case, the use case is more about gaming. So we can focus, for example, on our gameplay elements, and the algorithm will highlight from different videos the specific meaningful elements in these videos. Like in one case, it can be a mobile phone. In other one, it can be a dragon. And third one, it can be the cards or the car. And again, identify its performance. We'll track it across video, identify its performance across the different videos, and again, show you to your preference, whether that's spend, whether that's impressions, whether that's retention, what is your best winning element. And again, the action item here would be, if this is a really great element that driving and correlates to all of my performance, I probably should use it more in my next iterations. Or by the way, and it's actually correlates to the third use case that we're going to show, is actually If that's a great element, let's try to iterate specifically on this element. Let's try to make it even better. And if we saw that our mobile phone is actually doing great, usually we would like to iterate, create more different versions out of it, and our engine automatically highlights for you all of the different versions and iterations of each scene or each element in this case. So while we easily focus on our best winning element, we just clicked on show similar, and now we can see all the different versions and iterations of this element. Again, everything is automatic with AI, with no need to do any manual work. And basically going to the last use case, and this is really relates to things that Adi covered, like again, the technology. The technology advances a lot, and all of our library actually also build upon a text annotating algorithm that actually annotates all the creatives, meaning a very simple use case that helps a lot of our clients is actually going and text search query our library. And like in this simple example, let's find all the creatives that has in the creative hands holding a mobile phone with elements of casino. And then easily you just highlight all of the relevant elements, scenes, or creatives, and basically can compare performance that correlates to any text query. So we can compare all the mobile phones that are held by hands with casino elements versus any specific other element like dragon or a specific influencer, and just compare the performance. And I would really like to kind of give you the what's next in the very near future. So again, the technology advanced a lot, and there's a lot of new available capabilities that are easily integrated into the platform. Some of the simple use cases that we hear a lot from clients. So think about actually extracting the text from your creatives, your messaging, translating that from different language, and then aggregating performance automatically and showing you in a multi-language kind of way what is the best messaging that works in your videos. For example, as that play now or win now or something else. The second thing is actually more and deeper analysis of the sound of your videos. So are we more using speech, or are we more using narration or some kind of music? Which type of music is better resonates with our audience, whether that's something classical or something more rock style. Again, all of that can be achieved automatically. Then the next kind of evolution of what our engine is doing is actually allowing our clients to, on top of the things that we are highlighting as insights, actually let you choose specific custom elements that you believe and hypothesize about and think that they are actually moving the needle for you. So we can easily track that for you. So let's say you have a hypothesis that you want to compare different characters with sunglasses versus without sunglasses. So we can track the specific elements, track sunglasses on the person, etc., etc. And it's kind of a holy grail, I think, use case, and this is actually where our product is going, and that easily score your content, because we already know what's working for you and what's not working for different goals, for different audiences, for different countries, for different channels. So basically think about instead of going and spending a lot of testing budget on different variations, you would be able to just upload your next batch of creatives, get some kind of preliminary scoring for each creative or even for each element in your new creatives, and go back to the drawing board and make these winning iterations even better and focus them before you actually deploy them to your A/B tests. So think about your production pipeline and A/B testing becoming much more data-driven, and the success rates of your production actually going up. And finishing with use cases, I would just summarize with a success story. We have Saikala here, and I believe she will talk a lot about it, but basically Ace Games was one of our first clients more than a year ago, and we really saw a great mutual success, I think, with the product and with Ace Game using our tool. It basically covered a lot of the use cases even before the AI that I already shared, mainly helping actually aggregating all the data in one place with the most accurate and granular data as possible on the creative level. And you can see here some of the success metrics that Ace Games measured and achieved using our product. Thank you, and I'm moving back to Adi.
All right. Thank you, Max. Now we'll move on to our next part, our chat with Saikala and Max. So welcome, Saikala.
Hey.
Happy to have you joined. So let me start with first question to you when we talk about challenges we're dealing with today. So in recent years, there's been considerable shifts in our field, like privacy changes and the adoption of AI that we spoke about. So how did these changes affect your role, and was your team able to manage to adapt to these changes? Saikala?
Sorry, that's me. Sorry about that. Yes, so in recent years, so many things have changed. I feel like we started with pandemic and then went into new privacy regulations. So the privacy regulations obviously shifted for everyone, and the attention focus went from third-party ownership of data to first-party responsibility. And for us at Ace Games, we have done lots of work last year on everything to do with iOS. We are in a good shape now, but we do believe there's a lot more work to do on that. I'll leave it at that because it's just not that simple to answer. On the other side, the AI took everyone by the storm last year. Many people were surprised, and I think in our industry, marketeers kind of, you're on two sides. One, go like, oh my God, AI is going to take over the world and take our jobs away. And then the other side goes like, hey, great, another tool I can offload all of my mundane work. So I personally prefer the other side. I do like to use AI and any type of automation to just, do all the routine tasks, optimize my work time so that I can create quality time for thinking and doing something that machines can't do. And I know my team likes it too. So I guess we are on that side of the spectrum.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, if I can add that from the product marketing side. It's also the same with you that we see the AI as something that could help us just do our jobs better and not replacing us.
And don't get me wrong, I think we've tried to think about it. Could I actually use ChatGPT to write novels? No, I don't think so, because I'm not a professional writer. So I do believe that AI as a helping hand could be best used by the experts in the field. So if you're a writer, you could do better research with that, or faster research that you normally wouldn't do. If it is creative designer, maybe you can do storyboards much faster with some of the AI tools. If you're an analyst and you want to utilize some of AI, I don't know if that's any useful for them yet, you just can do it so much better than somebody without the expertise. That's how I see it.
Yeah, for sure. And when you look back, let's say 2 years ago, and comparing it to today, so how did you used to define today marketing and measure success of creative optimization in your marketing campaigns?
So looking previously at a couple of years ago, as you said, the privacy and reporting challenges were still here, but I think what's changed mainly is the mindset, because when the privacy came up first, we were still most marketeers, I speak for myself, we were still in the old way of measuring things. We want to see that predicted LTV for every single creative because that's a habit. And we wanted to measure creative success with that as well. So nowadays what's changed, and I think rightly so, it takes time to change human habits. We emphasize more towards upper funnel metrics and the creative impact, more to do with ad spend attributed to it rather than predicted LTV.
So I assume that kind of changed how the ideation process works with your teams, right?
Yes, definitely. What I always wanted and it never happened before because everything was so measured, like a laser targeted, laser measured. What happens now that there's a lot of contextual information and some of it is not 100% certain. That brought marketing and product teams to collaborate even closer than ever before. And that also gave us focus on desired player audiences that we want to work with, connect our marketing campaigns, messaging and creative to the product and features, calendar, and people as well, our consumers and players. This unified approach of aligning our marketing efforts with game content, rollouts enhances creative output, and it creates that kind of pattern where we actually think about these things proactively and brainstorming in a way that we come up with ideas that are not easy but brings longevity to our marketing messaging campaigns and incorporates heavily product and the player base themselves.
So when we talk about KPIs, what would you say the optimal mix of top and bottom funnel KPIs? And do you even look at bottom funnel metrics in terms of creative optimization?
Max, you go first.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, okay, I will try to take it first. Yeah, you're right. So I think that's a great question because there is actually no consensus about it in the industry. And there probably would be really two different opinions about that. The first one would say that creatives actually influences only the upper funnel, and since the end user saw the creative and installed the app, all of the down funnel metrics actually are a function of the product or the experience. And then the other kind of opinion, which is, I think, and I believe that is growing stronger and stronger, says that actually creative is the new kind of brand way of targeting. Okay, and since targeting is becoming much harder in the post-privacy world, so in today's really advertisers trying to convey the right message and speak to the right audience in a belief that it will eventually convert the right audience and influence their behavior. So you're actually bringing the audience that you believe is the audience you're looking into, and the measurement of that is down funnel. And personally, I believe it's just a mix of both of them, and just two phases. So on the first phase, when you're actually optimizing and trying to reach your budget goals, you should focus on the upper funnel metrics and make sure that your creatives is spending and getting traction. And then once it's already spending, you should also follow your down funnel metrics. Let's say the closer ones like retention day 3, maybe even day 7, and make sure that your creatives are not just some kind of clickbaits or ultra misleading, and that they actually bring the audience that stays in your app. Say, Kala?
To answer the question whether it's simply to do with upper or bottom funnel, lower funnel metrics, I actually don't recommend focusing on bottom funnel metrics, such as predicted LTV, for example, or day 360. I mean, Max, you're not going to remember what ad has shown you 7 days later. It's just going to be deep in the game and that kind of gameplay and environment, competing with your friends while you're playing Fiona's Farm, obviously.
course.
So for us, marketeers on the client side, it's a standard user journey. So initial 7 days is key to measure marketing effectiveness, and that's creating creative content that is really engaging and appropriate, appealing for the target audience that you plan and design for, is important. So main creative effectiveness is addressed with simple things: CTR, IPM, CPI. Day one retention is a good one as well, to see if the creative is designed is the right one. But overall, the effectiveness of the creative will also then, with your creative tool that we can now have all of the segmented cost data, simply calculate ROAS. Because yes, we can do all of the CTR, PM, CPI, and day one retention measurement and see which creative performs better. But in the end, you do need to make sure your media buying is efficient for each and every creative. So essentially, ROAS is impactful. So if the question is, what do you consider lower funnel metric? If it's ROAS, then yes, for me. But then if you say it's day 30 or day 360 and PLTV, then no, because anything beyond 7 days is derivative of product effect and product performance.
So we talked a lot about creatives as a whole, and I want to dive into the elements. So how do you determine the effectiveness of creative elements, like the colors, the characters, the CTAs? I mean, how do you know what affects the performance the most?
Oh, that's very broad, but also I imagine all of the segmentation, all of the constructing of naming conventions plus segmenting the cost and everything. But Ace Games, we take a dynamic approach with creative efficiency and effectiveness as well. We combine performance insights with how much of we're investing in the particular creative, using budget spend as a gag of its potential impact. And our strategy involves merging detailed data of what we get from attribution provider and the cost data API. And then we attach it with our tailored labels. And sure, every company has their own labels or tags or whatever they use. We nourish our creative naming conventions with additional information like motivations, emotions that we're trying to address or message with our target audience. And we manage this complexity in automated parts. Our data team is really great. They have built us an automated visualization dashboard where we can actually have all of these pre-populated and updated every day. So in effect, it's simple enough for a wider audience to understand. You don't need to be UA manager. Our creative team, designers can understand that. Business team can understand that. So it took some work, but it's a combination of both. What we get from our creative API plus labels internally.
That's great. That's a great approach. Max, maybe you can add to it and tell us how does AI know which creative variations are likely to succeed without doing just random testing?
Yes, of course. So actually, we see it as another data problem. And the more data we have, the bigger and the more accurate answer we probably would have. As our AI engine is actually breaking all of your visual content into elements, but these elements are living in the context of a video, and we have the exact performance of each video in video because is what the product about. So if we eventually look at different elements across different videos, combining and normalizing all of the performance of these videos, eventually we will get the actual performance that is attributed to each element and element. Just think about it as if I have a really great opening scene that had a very specific character, and in all the videos that I put in them, there was much higher correlation to performance. versus some other character that I used in another opening scene. And in most of the videos that opened with this scene, the correlation to the performance is actually bad. The performance there is much lower than the performance on the other character. This is basically a much more statistically significant approve of the performance of this character and this opening scene versus just A/B testing on specific platform with a really small budget. Because in this data proven case, the volumes, the spend, and the actual performance calculation is done on a much higher level. So again, statistics works here, and we believe that it's a much better way to prove and attribute performance to elements or scenes.
So how do you, what would you say the benefits of using AI methods compared to the manual methods we used to do?
So I actually think it's kind of complements it and maybe even answers a kind of inherent bias that is usually happening within production and A/B testing cycles. And this bias is about the fact that we don't know what we don't know, right? So usually when the production process is iterated, you are usually driven by some kind of hypothesis that you want to check. So usually when you will go and try to tag things that you would like to test and you will tag them manually, you will eventually be biased to measurement of the things that you already kind of knew or wanted to test. And on the contrary, AI doesn't have this context. It doesn't know what's your iteration or what's your production goal was or what it was about. It actually just breaks your content to infinite different objects and then correlates the performance and highlights things for you that you maybe even didn't think about. And I usually love to give an example of clients that not intentionally played with different angles on their gameplay and never even thought about measuring that or tag that. And eventually when they use our tool, they basically, because the tool is very visual, just saw how a specific angle correlates to most of the performance, was very visual, was very data driven. So that's a thing that if you were trying to tag something manually, you wouldn't even think about. And I think that's where actually AI helps us a lot.
Yeah, I guess what amazes everyone with AI is that it goes way beyond what we as human beings can think of and imagine. And it opens up a lot more possibilities in performance marketing. We have a few more minutes before our Q&A, so let me just ask the both of you if you have any tips for trying out new ideas and staying successful. If there's anything you see as 2024 in the year of performance marketing going to change. Saikala?
Yeah, sure, I'll start. So I have one thing for, like, I don't know, advice how to, let's say, resilience, be successful, and then another one, old but new, kind of. So the first one is performance marketing and brand marketing, anything to do with marketing, to be honest, nowadays is all merged. And in mobile games, I think one of the biggest things is you have to test a lot. You have to make lots of mistakes. You need to find winners, and there's lots of things. Creative is part of it, and there's a whole lot of everything that we have to do. And one thing I've learned myself, it is important to learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortable moments. Be okay with the unknown and take the journey, because it is always about testing, iterating, and understanding things. Learn to celebrate small wins, because it's not a sprint, it's a journey, and it's going to be a marathon. And a journey to success is often bumpy and never perfect and never short either. So, but it could be enjoyable if you could celebrate small wins. Another part is actually, let's say not discovery, but I've learned that recently product marketing roles have become a lot more cooler than it used to be in the past. Where in the past it was mainly about communication and alignment. Now it bridges the data part of it. It bridges so many other things that's thanks to privacy and bring contextual targeting to the front. So if anyone wants to explore or is already in product marketing roles, this is one of the things I would explore. And I know in the future, performance marketing will need this type of talent to add value to everything we do to bridge the gap. I know we will need to.
Max, anything to add on that? On the tips for here?
Yes, of course. I think I would take some other direction, and I will basically encourage all of you to go and explore the generatives world of visual. Everybody in the industry, in the tech industry, is speaking about 2024 becoming the generative video year. So if until now we had Midjourney and Firefly and DALL-E that were able to generate a really great visual static content, and as we saw in our presentation, most of the budgets are going to actually video, so it still wasn't kind of useful and actionable. So all of us really believe that 2024 will be a generative video year, meaning that you can utilize that for really different use cases. One of them can be just hypothesize and brainstorm with AI about good concepts and then take it to your production teams. Some of this technology can be used to actually speed up maybe some production processes, creating automatically different iterations. And again, the sky is the limit there. And I think we should not be afraid of that, and we should use that, and it will really help us scale and create eventually a much better visual content. And I think that's what all of the discussion is about. And just use it.
Thank you, Max. All right, so if you haven't done it until now, then please add any questions you may have into the chat. Let me pull some questions that we currently have in the Q&A. So a second. Okay, we have one here for Saikala. The question is that historically creative production, and the UA team used to work in silos. So how does it work with Ace Games, and did it change in the recent months?
So just to make sure I understand, this talks about the UA team and creative designers team, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Well, luckily at Ace Games, this is how it was from the beginning. But I think probably I could comment from some of the past experiences where creative teams were, let's say, seated in as part of the brand marketing team or product in some cases. I think it's really, really important to have performance marketing team and creatives work together, because together they can just, come up with much better idea, work closer with product and everyone else they need to, and just come up with better ideas, because that way creative designers would learn a lot more about performance marketing and how to read data, how to understand what works. And then vice versa, on performance marketing side, we need to make sure we understand what does it take to make a creative that we're asking for, and how much, rendering, 3D animation, and everything that they need to create, and how much of that could be done with AI, and what kind of AI tools, so that when we do request different parts. We actually requesting what is time efficient and what we are going to use. So luckily at Ace Games, that's not in silos. I'm quite happy about that because someone else done it before my time. So thank you. But I know that in some companies it's different.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And I think it's a challenge lots of companies are having among the collaboration between teams, and not just only UA and design, but everyone. All right, so I have another question here. So how has the ad level LTV been affected in terms of overall campaign structure? Old best performance eventually bring up the overall performance up, but new creatives need to outspend older ones or pass a certain threshold to be claimed as good as winners. So can AI determine these thresholds or comparisons during its evaluation?
So I'll try to answer that, and I will try to present a bit different angle, I think, on the question, in the way that our tool is not about predicting LTV. Our tool is not about saying that if you change the background from green color to blue color, you will have a lift of exactly 10% in your ROAS day 7. Personally, I don't believe in such solutions. I talk to a lot of clients, and it can be practically work. And on top of that, again, there's so much context out there. And one of that is exactly the use case that was shown in the question about top spenders versus new contenders in the context of audience, campaign goals, actual networks, algorithms that have their own logic to push creatives. So this is not about that. This is not about predicting actual value or something like that. What we believe in is, first of all, classifying different segments of creatives. So things about your top spenders are not necessarily the same as about your successful A/B tests, or the things that working for some smaller or mid-term creatives, or what works for different seasonal effects. Okay, so the context here is really important, and our models try to classify the creatives exactly into these different sections and models, and then to score it. What is better and what is worse? What is correlated with different metrics and what it's not? And again, the goal as we see it is to guide the production process. Again, it's not to do some magic that if you change one creative into the other in a live campaign, then everything would be solved. We really believe that this is hard to do. What we really believe is in guiding your production, making your production much more data-driven, focusing it, making it much more efficient, reducing the time from production to actual live campaigns, and increasing the success rates of the production process. And there we really believe that scale and data really correlates with action items and with outcomes and with performance.
Can I add to that, actually? I'll give an example, Max, of how we actually, because I agree with your focus on ideation and understanding what works. It's not about one single creative, and sometimes it goes to type of creative, because let's say thanks to part of the automation that we received from Maxfire plus internal metadata tagging, we were able after several months to elevate the helicopter view so that we can see, okay, what types of creatives are actually working overall on majority of the networks, or maybe most of them, and things like that. So we then see, actually, we do spend quite a bit of ad spend on user-generated content, UGC. And some of them are performing well. Some of them, we don't know if we can do better. Going back to you don't know what you don't know. So what we did then, we manually prioritized, okay, this is important, this is working on some major networks. So what we decided together with creative designers, let's next 2 months focus on quality. We know it's working, so let's up the quality of what we know works. And we push that content again and again. That actually worked really well for us, so we are very happy. And yeah, I would say that was a use case for us.
That's great. Thank you. I think our time is up. So I want to thank everyone for joining. You can feel free contacting us through our LinkedIn accounts, and then it's in the landing page. And I wish you all a successful creative year.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you
Thanks
so much.
for joining. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.